So in this video, I'm going to get you started with programming in LibreOffice Base or OpenOffice Base. Now, I used two sources to learn how to program in OpenOffice / LibreOffice Base. I used a combination of surfing the internet, going through LibreOffice and OpenOffice's websites and APIs, and what really made things easy for me was this book, Database Programming OpenOffice Base. Database Programming, OpenOffice.org, Base and Basic. Now, in my opinion, the author of this book gets a lot of bad reviews, and unfairly, probably 70% bad reviews and maybe 30% glowing reviews on Amazon.com. And the bad reviews, in my opinion, really aren't his fault. LibreOffice is difficult. It really is, because it's got a long history. None of the people who originally programmed it are around on the project, because I've just quickly Googled here, and we can see, for example, that LibreOffice, or OpenOffice basically, was bought by Sun Microsystems in 1999, but then in 2009 Oracle purchased Sun Microsystems, and basically they lost interest in what was OpenOffice, because basically Sun Microsystems owned OpenOffice. Oracle bought them. They weren't too interested in the whole OpenOffice thing, and then OpenOffice got passed over, I think, was it to the Document Foundation or whatever. It basically became open source, or not managed by Oracle anyway. Development on OpenOffice kind of dried up, etc. I'm just quickly cutting to the chase here. There was a fork done from OpenOffice to LibreOffice, and most of the development going forward is in LibreOffice. Okay, but the point with Benito is that everybody who's working on LibreOffice now didn't write the original code, so they're basically just trying to figure out what's in the code. But notwithstanding that, I think Roberto does a really good job of cutting to how to actually build stuff in OpenOffice. But it's not for the faint of heart. You really have to have some programming chops. So if you're a newbie, I wouldn't necessarily deal with it. But anyhow, let's get on with doing a little bit of OpenOffice programming, and I'm going to keep this video short, notwithstanding the ramble I've had up to now, just to give you some rough ideas. But we're going to create a simple form, so let's do it right now. So step one is we're going to go to Forms, and I'm going to create a form in Design View. So let's just do that right now. So just like I've got some other videos around this subject which will be linked below. So we can just, if you don't understand anything on this, which shouldn't be a problem, or if you need some more advice, I've got advice in the video linked below on how to build a form. So I'm going to do the building of the form really quickly and cut to the code then. So here we go. The building of the form in detail is explained in the other video. We've got our form canvas here, so let's pull up the form navigator and let's put this to one side. Step one is, as in the previous video, create a data source. Now I'm going to click on the properties window, and I'm going to just drag the properties window so we can see what we're doing. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to navigate a table. So I'm going to get this table here called Video Posts, and I'm just going to move this window here out of the way. So we're going to be navigating this table using code. And in further videos, I'm going to get into more detail on how to update, delete records, etc., etc. But let's just get you started coding first, okay? So on this forms, we see this form here. We think of this as a data source. So I'm just going to click on it and click on General and give it a name. And I'm going to call this, let me just get my keyboard near here. I'm going to call this data source DS Video Data. So when I've got the data source highlighted in the form navigator, the properties, I can change it in the properties. So DS Video Data. And I'm going to set its data, I have to now set its data tab. So its data in this instance is, I'm just going to go with a simple table, and the table is going to be table video posts. Now this particular this particular database with its code will be available to download at a link that's going to show here now. And okay, so let's go with that. Table video posts. So now DS video data is linked to table video posts. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to put two controls on the data source. So first of all, just for simplicity, we're going to take ID and video title. So making sure the DS video is highlighted, I'm now going to go and get a text box here, and I'm going to draw the text box just for the size of an ID, and then I'm going to name that text box. Because it's highlighted, I can go to properties and I'm going to call it video ID. So text VIDEO video ID, and I'm going to now create another control for the video title. So to make things simple, I'm just first of all going to set the height of this text box to 7. I'll set it to 7. So if we go to height 0.7, I'll set it to 0.7. Okay, the other thing I need to do is set the anchor to page. That makes it easier to move the to reposition it. I've selected it. I'm now using my arrow key, and you can see I can move the controls a lot easier. That there is the anchor. Anchoring it to the paragraph means it's anchored to the current line, which makes things difficult. I'm just trying to go fast here. So now let's just copy this. So I'm going to copy it and paste it. Control C, click off of it, and Control V. So now what I'm going to do with this is make it wider, because we want to hold the title. Now again, because this is selected, the properties window here is also selected for it. So this now needs to be called text video title. So I'm going to rename it to that, text video title, and I'm going to go to data, and I'm going to again choose which field I want, video title. So just a quick recap. We had the data source video data that is tied to the table, and the table it's tied to is video posts, and then these controls are tied to that data source, DS video data. So on the controls, you don't have to choose the table, you just choose the fields, because the data source knows what table you're connected to. Controls just need to be told which field we are connecting to. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to put two buttons on the form, and these buttons are the purpose of them is going to be to move next and to move previous. Okay, so let's do that right now. Again, what I'm going to do is make sure I've got the video data control highlighted, and now I go to the button, and I'm going to draw a button here, and I will call this command, showing that I'm used to Microsoft's VBA, CMD command previous, and I'm going to call it previous, and then I'm going to create another one. I'm going to call this command next. And call it next. So now we've got our two buttons created on the form, and just to keep them uniform, I'm just going to quickly click on this other button, and I can see that its width is 4.17 and its height is 1. So I will set the width to 4.17, and I'm going to set its height to 1, and hopefully that will readjust. Yes, so we've now got previous and next. So now the code. So to set up our code, first of all, we're going to have to save our form and give our form a name, because I'm giving you a methodology with which to do this. So let's save our form. So save it. So I'm just going to call it form move records, and I'm going to hit save, and that's it. And there you have form move records. So it has been saved. Okay, so a lot of things with LibreOffice can be non-intuitive. In this particular instance, unlike Microsoft Access, where the code is stored behind the form, in LibreOffice you need a separate module code module for your form. So to keep things organized, our form is called form move records. So we're going to make a module with a similar name to hold the code that refers to that particular module, to that particular form. So we go to Tools, Macros, Organize Macros, Basic, and then we choose our database, because what I want is the code to be in the database, not kept within LibreOffice. That way, if we distribute the database, the code stays with the database. So I've clicked on my database, I've expanded it, and I'm going to choose Organizer. And the Organizer comes up. Again, I'm going to click on my database, and I've got the Modules tab highlighted, and I'm going to I'm going to click on Standard because that's the library we want, and I'm going to choose the New button. So click on New, and it offers us a module, and we can change the module name. So that's what I'm going to do right now. So I'm going to choose m_form move record. So this is going to be the module that goes with form move records, and I'm going to choose OK, click OK. And then I'm going to click on Close, and I'm going to click on Close again. And now our module should be created. Okay, now that our module has been created, it's time to put some code into the module. So let's just initially just open our form again. So I'm just going to go Edit, and our form should come up. So we've got our previous and our next buttons. So we want to put in the code for this right now. So I'm just going to click Tools, Macros, Organize Macros, Basic. And I'm going to click on the database and expand it and choose the standard library, which is the default library, and click on the module that we're going to use, which is the module that I've named for this particular form. And I'm going to click Edit. Every module comes with this basic sub main, which it's just a default procedure that's in there. We don't need that. So the first step is I'm going to put option explicit at the top of the module. Option explicit stops you from having variables that are undeclared, and that's a way that bugs can actually come into your system. Whereas if you mistype a variable, a bug can come in because you don't realize that the variable has been mistyped. Option explicit stops that from happening. So here we go, let's put that in. Let's create the procedures that we're going to use. Now, first of all, I'm going to create the procedure for moving next on your record, for moving your record to the next position. This procedure is going to be for the Move Next button. So I'm going to call it Move Next _click, because it's from the click event of the button, and we put in E as object. Now, what that's about is when you click a button, you have what's known as an event raised, because this is object-oriented programming, and so you have a click event raised, and the click event is packaged in a variable. Think of it as a bucket, and the E is the bucket that carries this particular click event. I call it E, just E for event. You could call it Kermit the Frog if you wanted, as long as it was Kermit the Frog without spaces. You can call the event anything you like. I'm calling it E. So sub move next _click end sub. Now this is there's a lot to learn, but I'm trying to keep this to the minimum just to get you started. We can understand objects in later videos, and please understand what would be good is if you could leave comments, tell me what else you need to know, and as time goes on I'll put more information in the comments, such as other videos that handle the items you didn't quite understand, or where to go, what next videos to watch. As time goes on, I'll build out the description down below. So sub move next click. So that's going to be the code stem for this particular, for the move next record. The next procedure is going to be sub move previous _click, and again we put in the event handler E as object. So again, really the thing is, even if you don't understand this, just type it and it'll get you started. So end sub. Okay, so now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to paste in a piece of code, because as I said, it's object-oriented code here, And this is a little helper routine that just makes all of this work. And my plan is to put this in the description below, and you can just paste it into your code. And in future videos, I can get into all of this in detail. And it's not actually that hard. It's just to do with objects. And when you start getting into object orientation, one of the things of objects, just similar to families, is you have the concept of children and parents. So if you, for example, if a form has subforms, well then the subform is a child, and if you're in the subform, then the form above it is a parent, and you can navigate up and down the object tree in code using that kind of syntax. And that's what what this get form from events routine does. But don't worry about it, because just paste the procedure in and you'll be off to the races. So what we're going to do now is we're going to create an object to represent the data source that we created in the form navigator. So I'm going to just call it dim ds as object, and this is going to be the data source. And I'm going to say ds equals, and it's get form from event, which is the routine we just pasted in. And I'm just going to pass it the event object that came in here. And what we've just put here, we can also just copy into the routine below. Move previous. P-R-E-V-I-O, let's spell it right. P-R-E-V-I-O-U-S. P-R-E-V-I-O-U-S, is that correct? Spelling isn't my forte, and never spell or do maths on camera, they say, but hey, there you go. Okay, so now this ds represents the data source, and as it does here as well. So the simple navigation is ds.next. That's it. And to move previous, it's ds.guess what? Previous. And that's the code. Okay, so let's just save that. That's that saved. I'm just going to close it. And now let's go to the form and implement this code that we've just created. So I'm just going to edit, right click to edit, and we've got the form there. I'm going to click on the previous button, and just to reiterate, let's look at the form navigator. You've got your form navigator here, and let's call up the properties. We've now got to attach an event to it. So remember, the form properties has 3 tabs: general, data and events. So for this button, so for the previous button, we're going to use the, let me just click on it again. We're going to use the mouse button pressed event. So you click into it, then go over to the button with the ellipses, click on that, and then it suggests mouse button pressed again in the assigned action dialog. Go with that and click macro. And now we have to assign it to the subroutine that we just created. So we know it's in this database, expand it, we go into the standard library, expand that, we go into the module that we created for the form, and here we have our procedures. So what we want is move previous click, because that's the button that we're assigning it to, and click OK. And that's it. So now we can click OK again, and we now move to the next button. And for the next button, we need to again assign it to the mouse button pressed event. Click inside that, click on the ellipses. It automatically suggests the event we want, mouse button pressed. As I said, I don't know why we have the 2 dialog boxes, but that's just the way it's been coded by OpenOffice back in the day. Click on macro. Again, we go to our database, we go to our library standard, which is the standard one. We go to our module mform move records. We're doing next, so click on the next routine that we created. Click OK. Then click OK again, and we're good to go. So now let's test it. And what I'm going to do first, of course, is save the form. Otherwise, we lose all this work. So I'm going to save it. I'm going to close it. Save changes, yes. And now I'm going to launch the form by double clicking on it. And it looks like there might be a mistake already. So let's go next. So we can see that when I click next and when I click previous, the form is kind of working, but the ID field doesn't seem to be working. So let's just have a look, see what I've done wrong there. So I'm just going to right click and edit on the form again, call the form over to this monitor, click on this one, and what I'm going to do is pull up the form properties. The data field wasn't filled out. So if I click on the data source, we can see it's the table and it's video posts. But if I click on text video ID, you see the data field is blank. If I click on text video title, you see it's got video title. But if I click on text video ID, there's nothing there. So I'll hit the drop down arrow, I'll click ID, and we should be good to go now. So I'm just going to click here on the form. I'm just going to do Control S to save, to make sure it saves, and I'm going to close the form. Save changes, yes, and now I'm going to double click on the form again, and now it's working. So let's just pull up table video posts so we can see table video posts. So we get video posts here, and now let's pull the form up. So here's our form. So we can see record 1, ID 1, how to insert and duplicate rows in an Excel VBA range. Yes, there it is. I'm now going to click next, and you can see it's taken us to record 2. Going to click next again. Use Power Query to import text files into Excel. Row 3, there it's working. So our code is working. And now the previous, and I click previous, and we're going back. So now what I suggest you do is you can either download this particular database, and what I suggest is you create another form and you try and replicate what I've done here, and that's got you going at step 1. Now, as I said, leave some comments below, let me know what else you need to know, and as I said, the links to the next videos will be in the description below. So hey, don't forget to like and subscribe, and thanks for watching.